Hello everyone, I am Santosh MV, Assistant Professor from Department of Chemistry from VTU Regional Center, Mysore. So I am here today to discuss about the topics, the fuel cells. Fuel cells. So what do you mean by this fuel cell? We are familiar about the word cell. Cell is nothing but a device which converts stored chemical energy into electrical energy by redox reactions. That is what we have learned. What do you mean by cell? Means cell is a device which converts stored chemical energy into electrical energy. Okay, and that conversion of stored chemical energy into electrical energy will be done by redox reaction inside the cell. So such devices we call it as a cell, and a series of cells connected together, it leads to formation of a battery. So cell produces a very small amount of electricity, whereas a series of cells connected together which constitute a battery will produce large amount of electricity. So now we know that battery and the cell, in both the cases the chemical energy has been completely stored inside, means it is thermodynamically closed system. Whereas in case of fuel cell, so how this fuel cell is varied from that of a battery? See, in both the case, fuel cell as well as a battery, both will produce electricity by using fuels, okay, that is chemical energy. Okay, so on this basis, how will you define a fuel cell? Because till now I told how a cell can be defined, and on the same basis even the fuel cell, it is also producing electricity by using chemical energy of the fuel. How we can define this fuel cell? See, fuel cell, it is also a device which produces large amount of electricity by redox reaction which takes place between the fuel and the oxidant, So on this basis we can define a fuel cell as a device which converts the chemical energy of the fuel into electricity in the presence of oxidant, So oxidant is nothing but oxygen, which is very much in need for the ignition or the combustion of the fuel. Okay, so such device we call it as a fuel cell. Once again I repeat, fuel cell is a device which converts the chemical energy of the fuel into electricity in the presence of oxidant, Then how this differs from that of the battery? See, battery is thermodynamically closed system, whereas fuel cell is thermodynamically open system. Because in fuel cell we are not storing any chemical energy. Instead of that, we are supplying the fuel as well as the oxidant in two different containers, in two different sites, and until and unless we supply the fuel and oxidant continuously, the fuel cell keeps on generating electricity. So hence in this case, that is the fuel cell, we can expect the production of large amount of electricity, whereas in case of battery the amount of energy produced is very less because it uses only the stored chemical energy, whereas in fuel cell we are supplying the fuel as well as the oxidant continuously, and unless and until we keep on supplying the fuel and oxidant, the fuel cell keeps on generating electricity in large scale, and it can be used for many domestic purpose. That is the major difference between a fuel cell and a battery. Okay, so one thing you should remember is battery, it's a closed thermodynamic system, whereas fuel cell, it is an open thermodynamic system because we are supplying fuel and oxidant out from outside sources. Okay, so today let us discuss about a construction and working of one such fuel cell, that what we call it as methanol oxygen fuel cell. Methanol oxygen fuel cell. Methanol oxygen fuel cell. Methanol oxygen fuel cell. Okay, so this methanol oxygen fuel cell, coming to its construction. So if you consider any fuel cell, first we need to discuss about the construction of this particular fuel cell. Okay, how the fuel cell will be constructed. So in the construction part, the fuel cell okay, it contains an anodic material, and this anode is purely made up of porous nickel electrocatalyst, and there is a presence of cathode, and this cathode is also made up of porous nickel electrocatalytic material, and both anode and cathode are placed in two different places, okay, and this will be completely fixed in a chamber. It will be completely fixed in a chamber, which is having two inlets and two outlets. Okay, so now the anode and cathode both has been separated by a membrane. Okay, so this particular membrane will avoid the methanol to directly come in contact with cathode. The middle part is completely filled by electrolyte solution, and here the electrolyte which we consider is sulfuric acid. So sulfuric acid is behaving as an electrolyte here. And this is cathode, and this is anode. Okay, and this is a membrane which avoids the methanol to directly come in contact with cathodic part. So here on one side we are passing methyl alcohol, what we call it as methanol, CH3OH, along with sulfuric acid, will be fed into the cell, that is fuel cell, on one side, and excess will be removed here. Okay, so water will be the byproduct. In the other side, at the cathodic part, we are passing oxygen, which is nothing but oxidant. Once it is moved through the cathodic part, okay, so it releases, after complete reaction, carbon dioxide will be released. So this anode as well as cathode has been connected through the outer circuit, which helps in the movement of electrons. So this constitutes the overall methanol oxygen fuel cell. So in this construction part, the anode as well as the cathode material, it's purely made up of porous nickel, so that porosity in the nickel plate will allows the methanol along with sulfuric acid to enter inside and reach the electrolyte area where it undergo oxidation. When methanol undergo oxidation, it releases electrons, and released electrons will migrate from anode towards the cathode through the outer circuit, where the amount of energy will be drawn and converted into electricity. Whereas what happens after the oxidation process, at the same time we are passing the oxidant, okay, that is oxygen, through the outer another side towards the cathode, and oxygen will diffuse through cathode and reaches the membrane, where this particular oxygen combines with hydrogen and it leads to formation of water. Okay, so this is about a complete construction of methanol oxygen fuel cell. Methanol oxygen fuel cell. Okay, so here the one more thing what you should know here is this particular anode will be coated. This particular anode, it will be coated with platinum and rhodium, which behaves as a catalyst. The platinum and rhodium combination which behaves as a catalyst, whereas cathode it will be coated with only platinum. The cathode it will be coated with only platinum. Okay, so this is about the construction of methanol oxygen fuel cell. Okay, so next we shall discuss about working of methanol oxygen fuel cell. Working of methanol oxygen fuel cell. As I told, methyl alcohol along with sulfuric acid, when it is fed through anodic part, it reaches the anodic material which is purely made up of porous nickel plate, and in those pores this methanol along with methyl alcohol, that is CH3OH, along with sulfuric acid, will reach the catalyst, that is platinum and rhodium catalyst, okay, which is been coated on anode, and it undergo oxidation. So at anode, the methyl alcohol CH3OH in the presence of water, it leads to formation of carbon dioxide, which has been released due to the presence of catalyst, that is platinum and rhodium. This CH3OH, that is methyl alcohol, will get converted into carbon dioxide along with release of proton with electrons, and electrons. So if you balance the equation, this will become 6 proton along with 6 electrons. Okay, because here we are having 3 hydrogen plus 1 hydrogen plus 2 hydrogen. So 3 plus 3, it is 6. So 6 hydrogen ions have been released, means 6 electrons will be released along with carbon dioxide. The released carbon dioxide will escape through the other end, and finally the proton will migrate from anodic material towards the cathode. In between there is a presence of membrane, which I have already been shown during the construction part, and when this hydrogen comes in contact with membrane, okay, that which allows only the proton ions to move inside, that proton immediately it combines with oxidant, that is the oxygen which is passed on the opposite side, that is towards the cathode. So when oxygen which is present here at cathodic part, when it combines with 6 protons along with 6 electrons, what happens? It leads to formation of water. 3 molecules of water. Here the protons which are released during the anodic reactions, they migrate in between the semi-permeable membrane, whereas electrons that has been released, they migrate through the outer circuit where we connect anode and cathode. Okay, don't get confused. In the electrolyte solution, only ions will migrate, not the electrons. Electrons will migrate only through the outer circuit. It never migrates through the electrolyte solution. So at anode side, oxidation is taking place. So methyl alcohol in the presence of water molecule, it's undergoing oxidation with releasing carbon dioxide as a byproduct with formation of protons and electrons. So protons migrate from anode towards the cathodic side between the semi-permeable membrane, and it comes in contact with oxygen which is supplied through the cathodic side, and oxygen combines with hydrogen in the presence of electrons. It undergoes reduction and water molecule is formed as a product. If you write the net cell reaction, okay, what will be the net cell reaction? Okay, so in net cell reaction, what happens here? Here one molecule of hydrogen is there, and here out of 3 molecules, 1 molecule of water molecule will be removed. Okay, 1 molecule of water molecules which is present at the anodic side, okay, and 1 molecule of water as a product which is obtained in reduction reaction will be cancelled. Okay, and here hydrogen gets cancelled, electrons gets cancelled. So the remaining thing is methyl alcohol, CH3OH. In the presence of oxidant, that is oxygen, it leads to formation of carbon dioxide, which is in the gaseous form, along with two molecules of water. If you just see the net cell reaction, it's clearly telling that methyl alcohol, which is taken as a fuel, and oxygen, which is taken as an oxidant. So when fuel and oxidant are combined together, it leads to formation of carbon dioxide and water as a byproduct, and both the byproducts, whatever that is formed during this process, they are eco-friendly, means they will never pollute the environment, and hence fuel cell is highly eco-friendly. It is pollution free. So this is about the simple reaction that takes place inside the methanol oxygen fuel cell. Okay, so after this working, if I am clear about this working, next I need to tell you about the advantages of this fuel cell. What will be the advantage of fuel cell compared to that of battery? See, as I told, fuel cell, it has the ability to produce large amount of electricity. So unless and until you keep on supplying the fuel and oxidant in the opposite direction, that is towards anode and from cathode side, the fuel cell, it keeps on undergoing redox reaction and produces electricity continuously. So once there is a stop of supplying fuel or one of the oxidant, then fuel cell stops working. Okay, so hence by using this fuel cell, you can produce or you can generate large and continuous electricity. That is one of its advantage here. And the next advantage compared to other fuel cells is methanol oxygen fuel cell. It is a very simple fuel cell where we can store the methanol very easily, because in certain other fuel cells like hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, the storage of hydrogen in high pressure in cylinders itself is a high risk. So here we can easily supply methanol, okay, that is CH3OH, okay, methyl alcohol, okay, along with oxidant, and here the risk level is very less compared to other fuel cells. That is one of its advantage. Okay, and coming to its limitations, what are the limitations of these fuel cells? See, fuel cells, it requires large space. It is not a compact device. As I told, it's a thermodynamically open system. So it requires more space for the installation. That is one of its limitation. And moreover, the second limitation compared to battery is the storage of the oxidants and the fuels. Because fuel cell, it is a non-portable device, whereas battery, it is a highly portable device. Highly portable device means you can carry battery from one place to another place, whereas fuel cells, it cannot be carried. But nowadays we are using these fuel cells to run heavy vehicles, trucks or submarines or space vehicles, okay, and also it is used to run trains by using these fuel cells, okay, and the size of the fuel cells has been greatly reduced nowadays. So that is one of its limitation, that is, it is a non-portable device. You cannot carry the fuel cell as such of a battery. Okay, so by telling all these things, next we need to discuss about the difference between a battery and a fuel cell. This is very important from examination point of view also. So battery, it is a thermodynamically closed system, and a fuel cell, it is a thermodynamically open system. Battery, it is a highly portable device, whereas fuel cell is non-portable. And the chemicals which has been used here in case of fuel cells, okay, so those chemicals has to be supplied through outer source, okay, continuously, whereas in battery, the chemicals which we use, okay, the chemicals which we use, it will be completely stored inside. It will be stored inside. Okay, so this is in case of battery, whereas in case of fuel cell, the chemicals are supplied through outer source. The chemicals will be supplied through outer source. That is one of the difference between a battery and a fuel cell. Next, about operations. So how it works? As I told, battery, it's a closed system. It's a thermodynamically closed system, whereas fuel cell, it is thermodynamically open system. It is a thermodynamically open system. Okay, so hence in battery you can expect 100% efficiency because it's a thermodynamically closed system, whereas in case of fuel cell you can expect 90% efficiency because somewhere the other small amount of energy will be escaped from fuel cell during the combustion process of the fuel. Okay, so next important difference between a battery and a fuel cell is batteries, they are highly portable. Portability means which can be easily carried from one place to another place, whereas fuel cell, they are non-portable. Fuel cells are non-portable. They are non-portable. Okay. Next, what's the difference between a battery and a fuel cell? Here, efficiency. So as I told, efficiency is 100%, and in battery, the reactions, whatever the reactions that takes place inside the battery, those reactions are reversible. Reactions are reversible, means the battery can be recharged, whereas this fuel cell, the reactions are not reversible. Non-reversible. That means whatever the reactions that takes place in a fuel cell, so that reaction cannot be reversed back. That is one of the difference between a fuel cell and a battery. So based on this difference, we can tell that fuel cell, it has the ability to behave only as a galvanic cell. So galvanic cell means it's a device which converts chemical energy into electrical energy, whereas a battery, it has the ability to react or to behave both as a galvanic cell as well as an electrolytic cell. So the reactions can be reversed and battery can be recharged for several times, whereas the fuel cell, it will keep on generating electricity unless and until we keep on supplying fuel and oxidant. Okay, so these are some of the difference between a battery and a fuel cell.